Okay, welcome to the first attempt at what I'm going to call 50-50 mystery stamping. And it may make sense later. It might not, but hopefully it will. And I had sent out an email to everybody about the paper that you might want to have in front of you to participate in this. And we are just going to go over what those pieces of paper are. So we're starting with, and we're going to do really kind of two of each. Two pieces of basic white or very vanilla, doesn't matter, but they are both cut to 4 1/4, so 4 1/4 wide, and then the length is 11. So essentially this is half a sheet of paper, just cut in half. So again, 4 1/4 by 11, two of those. What I suggested was that you actually start with the designer series paper that you are going to use to make this project, because it's kind of important, and you will see why, that you think about the designer series paper for two reasons. One is the colors that you might want to include in your project, and also the orientation of the designer series paper. The project that we're going to do is going to end up being a portrait card with a twist, but a portrait card. So I'm starting here with two pieces of designer series paper. Both of these are from the Daffodil Afternoon designer series paper collection that is part of the celebration. And these are cut to 3 3/4 inches wide, both of them, and they're both 5 inches high. And I have cut them so that when I'm looking at the design is going vertical. All right, so I've got two pieces of designer series paper cut to those measurements. And then from the same designer series paper collection, just a thought and suggestion, since the colors work together, I have two additional pieces. These are 3 3/4 inches wide and 2 1/4 inches tall. And they will work with the other pieces that I cut out. So then what I did is I thought, okay, what color cardstock would look good with this kind of designer series paper and the different colors that are included. And the two colors that I decided on are these two. One is Mint Macaron and the other is Daffodil Delight. These are cut to the exact same size. They are both 4 inches wide and 10 1/4 inches long. And all I did was cut one piece of cardstock 4 inches wide on the 8 1/2 inch side. And then I cut off 3/4 of an inch. Because I started at 11, I cut it down to 3/4 of an inch off to get to 10 1/4. These are the pieces of paper that we're going to use for this project. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make two stacks of paper. So what I want you to do is take, these are my two stacks, one on the left, one on the right. And I'm going to put each stack, I'm going to put one of the larger pieces, the 4 1/4 by 11. This is going to be my base card. I'm going to put these two together, or two side by side. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take the color cardstock, the 4 by 10 1/4, and I'm just going to put them down on top of those pieces that I started with. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 5 by 3 1/4, and I'm just randomly going to add those to my piles. the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take the smaller pieces and I'm going to add these to my piles. Now, you may think, and you will be wrong, but you may think that you just chose how the colors are going to go together. Oh, no, 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 no. This is where the fun's going to come in. So take one of your stacks, put that to the left. Take one of your stacks and put that to the right. And then what I'm going to do is on my scrap piece of paper, I'm going to write the word odd and write the word even. Okay. This is where the 50-50 part comes into play. So I've got a dice. I'm going to roll that dice. If it is an odd number that comes up, we're going to do something to the pile on the left. If it is an even number that comes up, we're going to do something with the pile on the right. Simple enough. So first one, odd. I want you to take the piece of paper. In my case, this is the small piece of designer series paper, and put that on the middle. The other piece that you have of that small designer series paper, you can just put that someplace else. You're not going to use that right now. I'm going to roll the dice again. This time I got an even. So the larger piece of designer series paper on the even side is going to go into the middle. The designer series paper over here on the left, put that away. You're not going to use that right now. Okay, we have another even. So that means the one on the even side, and this is the color cardstock, you're going to bring in and put that in the middle. The color cardstock that's on the left or on the odd side, you're just going to get rid of it. And then obviously it doesn't matter on the last one because we've got the same card base on both sides. So you can just add one to the pile and you can get rid of the other one. So what we've now done is we have chosen randomly-ish the pieces that are going to be part of your card. And I do want to tell you that when you look at your designer series paper, remember you have two sides. So you can choose when we get to the point of using the designer series paper, you can choose which side you want to put on your card. And you're going to have a couple of different options when we get there. So these pieces that I'm going to use for my card, I'm just going to put them to the left for right now, because the first thing I want to do is create my base. To do the base, this is really, really simple. We are going to score this in half. This is going to be a 10th fold. So I'm going to put my card base into the scoring board. And since I've got 11 inches in width, I'm going to score it at 5.5. I'm just going to score that right down the middle at 5.5. And you can go ahead and fold this piece and give it a good burnish. And this is going to end up being part of your card base. And the orientation is going to be like this. So we're going to be using a 10th fold. There's another part of the card base, and that is going to involve the piece of color cardstock. So I'm just going to take my base that I just did. I'm just going to put that over to the right. And now I'm going to get the piece of color cardstock. Actually, I'll probably just put this over in my pile, get it out of the way. This is the piece that I chose with the dice. And I am going to score and burnish this one. Remember, this is cut to 4 by 10.25. So I want to put that into the scoring board. and I'm putting it into the scoring board so the 10.25 is along the side with the scores. I'm going to make 2 scores on this. One is going to be at 2.5. So I'm going to score this at 2.5. And I'm going to score it at 5. So 2.5 and 5. Okay. And I can go ahead and burnish it. And I want to make sure everyone is ready to burnish because we're going to be doing a mountain and a valley fold. I'm holding my paper so that at the bottom, I've got the 2.5-inch score line, and then I have the 5-inch score line. I want to fold the 5-inch score line. I'm folding that up. And you're going to see, and do not panic, that there is a gap. You're not going to meet at the top. You're going to have a little bit of a gap. That is perfectly fine. And you want to go ahead and burnish that. All right. So again, we're starting with the 2.5 toward me, and then this is the 5-inch, and I folded it up. Now I still have it held so that I can see where the 2.5-inch score line is. I want to fold that toward me. And when you burnish this, I suggest that you kind of fold the upper part, the part that has the larger edge away. And you're going to end up with something that looks like this. Okay. So this is where the 2.5-inch score was. This is where the 5-inch score was. All right, so we have 2 pieces that we're actually going to put together to make our card base. Kind of funky, but I really think you're going to like this. And I'm just going to take 2 seconds here. I just want to give this a really good burnish. And we will see why in a minute. Okay, I am going to use Tombow to put my 2 pieces of the card base together. I'm orienting this so that the, in my case, very vanilla basic white is opening upward. And then I have the second piece so that I have the 2.5-inch coming toward me. I am going to fold this over the color piece. I'm going to grab my liquid glue. And on the back, I am going to just get some adhesive on all 4 sides. And then a little bit down the middle, just because I feel like I should. And I'm just going to make sure that I have this card base oriented the way I want. And I'm going to put the 2 together. So I'm going to take the piece that is folded, turn that over, and I'm going to have that 2.5-inch fold coming toward me that I am going to put that colored cardstock on top of the tent fold. So I'm going to end up with it looking like this. And I've got that 2-inch piece off the front. Okay. And you can get that as centered as you want. Now we're going to start working with the designer series paper. And this is where I'd like you to take 2 seconds and kind of look at the pieces that you have and choose a combination that you like. So if you, in my case, you know, the stripes look pretty cool. The color of the flowers pulls the pink out. Or if I switch this over, there's a lot of stripes going on there. The one's going diagonally, and then we've got the checks at the bottom. Or I can turn this over And I've got flowers. I also got this design that would look nice with it. Or what if I did that? I kind of like it maybe like that. Not quite sure yet. So I'm going to do the bigger piece first. I'm going to take this one out of the way, but kind of commit to the side of the paper that you want to use for your bigger piece. And you can still think about which one you want on a little one. And we'll come back to that in a second. So I'm going to put this piece on so that I can see these flowers. I really like them. I think they'll look really pretty. And that means I'm going to flip this piece over, put some glue on it. And I will attach this to the card. And where I'm going to attach it is I'm going to lift up this flap and I'm going to attach it right behind. I'm just trying to get that centered. And I can see where my score line is. This is where my 5-inch score line is. And I'm just putting that straight on. So what this is going to look like at this point is something like this. And then the last piece that I want to attach, and I'm purposely going to put the folded 2.5 little mountain fold. I want to put that down because now I can commit to what one I want to use. Do I want this piece or do I want this piece? And it is totally up to you in terms of whatever design you have and how you use it. And I think I like that. I want the other flowers to kind of stand on their own. So I am going to put some glue on here. And then I'm going to put my second piece of designer series paper on the front flap. This is the one that was the 2.5. I'm just going to glue that down. And what I'm trying to do visually is kind of line up that vertical. I put my first piece of designer series paper, just trying to get it kind of straight. And then what we've created is called a double easel card. We haven't finished it yet, but the way this is going to work is it's going to stand like this. So if I put it on the side, it's going to stand up like that. And if I'm looking at it straight on, I'm going to have design in the front. I'm going to have design in the back. And you could even, if you wanted to, you could put, some more design in the center. Now, if you want at this point, you have the makings for a second card because all of the pieces that we said, let's just put off to the side, you could go back in right now or in a couple minutes and you could do a second card. And hopefully the patterns that you chose for that second card with the designer series paper will also work really well. Then the world opens in terms of how to finish these kinds of cards. So let me show you a couple of examples that I put together before we got together. This is one that uses essentially the same designer series paper that I just used. And in fact, the same colors. I just switched out the pieces that I used in the back and the piece that I used in the front. But it's the exact same design. And what I did, no mystery, is I used a stamp from the Hello Friend. It's one of the celebration stamp sets And I stamped that. Then I cut this out with the scalloped contour dies and just blinged it up a little bit. Used a little of the elegant trim on the top, and then put some bling on the outside and also in the back. And this will stand just like that. So when you put it down on a table, it's going to stand like that. This one is very similar in colors to the pieces that I had left over. These are the ones that got discarded when the dice got rolled. And again, it is, very, very similar. I use the same stamp set. I just use some different embellishments, but this one will also obviously stand like that. It's just a super, super cool design. Let me show you a couple of other ones that use completely different paper and completely different backgrounds. This is from the Flowering Fields suite, and you can see that this is with basic white as the base card and then Highland Heather as the color piece. And the Tulip Designer Series paper is just stunning, stunning, stunning. And then I cut out part of the windmill, used a little bit darker piece of cardstock to pull out the Highland Heather and have the blades of the windmill in white. The Happy Birthday is from, I think that's from the Rolling Flowers. I may be lying. I will find that in just a second. And die cut that and then use some pearls. Now, this is an idea that I originally saw that Sue Moore had posted, and she had used very similar products. Her card is different than this, but she had used similar products to what are in this card. And then I just changed up the color paper on this one with pumpkin pie and a little bit lighter orange in the background, and just thought that it works together really well. So there are a lot of ways that you can finish these kinds of cards. You can use big dies, big sentiments, because essentially you have a lot of space to put something that would look really nice as the foreground to the background that you're going to have on that card. Or if you prefer, or if the paper is a different kind where you might have a design that's not quite as high, the tulips go all the way up to the top here, whereas these daffodils don't have daffodils going all the way. You might not want to block the bottom, and then you can put some of your sentiments and dies on the bottom piece as well. So what I've decided I probably will do on the cards that I just made to finish them off is to use some fun dies. I haven't really put this all together yet because I wasn't sure how the dice would roll in terms of what I would be able to do. But let's say maybe I wanted to do something like this. I don't know if those colors are going to work, but these are the dies that are called Amazing Thanks. They're in the new mini catalog, and a really bold sentiment would look really nice on that card. And I could add some bling in the background. And if I wanted to mimic the same kind of sentiment on the other card, I can just change the background color and maybe pull in something that looks a little bit brighter. I'm not sure that I love that color. You can actually see it easier to read. So maybe something like that. And finish it off. But I think this kind of card is really simple as far as the base for the card itself, and then the front, that second easel that's created, and they're really pop. They're eye-catching when you see them in person. And I think people would really enjoy getting them for different occasions. They will fit into an A2 envelope because they will fold up. So that's not an issue. And, you know, the sky's the limit on the occasions. So that was the first 50/50 mystery stamping. Hope you liked it. And if you did, we might try it again. All right, I'm going to stop the recording and then we can open it up for